Alrighty, okay. Let's take this backwards a little bit. Rightio. So, back in a similar setting, or familiar setting, I should say. Man, this looks weird with the table so far up, but we are going to be working on the inlay stuff. So the candy skull that we started ages ago, going to aim to finish that today. Won't be able to attach it to the fretboard, or won't be able to inlay it today because the neck is at the workshop currently. So let us just get my monitor up and running, or stream monitor, so I can actually see if there's any comments and whatnot. Come on. All the technology is failing on me right now. Here we go. Get my access code while the spacey music plays. Radio. This is really freaky music. Oh, hold on. Yeah. Okay, now it should work. Yes. Awesome. What a couple of weeks it has been. So, as you all, anybody who saw it on anywhere, last week I was on vacation. Just took a week off from work just to get away from everything. Kind of get some time to kind of recuperate, get my energy back, bring the camera in just a hair. And yeah, basically now I am getting back into it. I have tons more energy to do stuff, which is kind of the main reason why I took the week off in the first place. I was just feeling burnt out, really, and everything was just kind of like piling up. I had to take a little breather just to kind of, you know, find my, or get back the motivation to push forward, make things. It happens every now and then. It's kind of like a writer's block type situation. It just happens. And what you can do is just move past that. Last Saturday, I was at the workshop. So the first time at the workshop in too long of a while. And I was supposed to carve all the necks for the production stuff, the MKH Daedalus included, and the 7 strain. Well, turns out that I had quite a lot of stuff there on my shelves that I need to clear out, make room for, so I would have room for the bodies, have room for the necks to actually get to work. But in order for me to do that, I had to process down some birch tops. Now, if you haven't seen the post I made on Instagram about the birch tops, let me show you what they look like. Now, while I was making these, I also filmed an entire book matching tutorial, and that will be coming out at some point. It's just sort of like filler video for me to put out probably after the Celeste stuff is done. I still need to contact my uncle about doing a Celeste demo because we haven't done that yet. And I really want to get good video and good coverage on what that guitar sounds like. Anywho, so the birch. So After my grandfather passed, there was a lot of wood left over. This was back in 2015 already. There was a lot of wood left over in storage and lying around and whatnot that we only recently started going through with my father. One of those piles had a few birch planks that I told my dad to not do anything with them. I'll take them off his hands because I have use for them. It looks like one of them has flame on it. It was really dirty, really dusty, and just nasty looking stuff. But I was pretty sure that there will be something really interesting in there for me to use later on. So, to that end, there's a couple of boards, or there was one plank, which was not as flamey, not as figured as the rest. And basically, it looks like this. This is one part of it, but definitely usable stuff. I mean, the thing is, I'm looking forward to using birch tops, flame birch tops in my builds coming up, and some of this stuff is just drop dead gorgeous. Even these planks, or even these bits, while they do have some of the heartwood, which I kind of like the look of, they do have these interesting curls. Let's see if I can get the camera to focus on that. Okay, there. You can see it a little bit. So right here, that's pretty interesting. And because I have it book matched, I can split that onto the top. I just need to joint it. So I have a feeling this is gonna look pretty interesting. The other part of it, put these down now. The other end of it, I should say, looks like this, or like this, which I also like. Then there's some bluing because it's fairly old wood and it's just been stuck around on the floor and got a little bit of moisture into it. So it's blued a little bit. I think that just adds to it. And they are gonna be pretty unique looking tops for sure. Not the most flamey of the bunch, but flamey and but pretty enough to use, I should say. Now, this is from the only plank of flamed curly birch that I actually bought back whenever I bought it. I cannot remember, but you know, for what it cost me, it looks pretty sweet. The other board from that plank looks like this. Try and see if you can get the flame in there and the curl. Get a better understanding from the side that is actually planed. The surfaces that I'm going to use, or the book match surfaces, I should say, they've only gone through the drum sander, so they're sanded to like, I want to say 80 grit, maybe even 60 grit. So once I sand those down, they're going to look phenomenal. Then these tops are pretty oversized lengthwise, but there's plenty of room for me to figure out what I want to do with them. But look at that. That is going to look pretty damn cool. And yeah, this is one of those boards that was just covered in dust and looked pretty horrendous before I put it through a planer and cleaned it up. And now look at all that stuff that was revealed from underneath it. I'm glad that we decided to salvage these pieces because they are gonna make for some incredible looking tops moving forward. This is from the same plank. So yeah, flame continues. There you can see a little bit of what it looked like. So, yeah. Opened up. It's really interesting trying to show what these look like on camera and on in pictures. But I'm pretty sure you get the idea. Now, this last board, so the last 3 tops are from this board. I got 9 tops in total that I can use, but I mean, come on. Come on. That is ridiculous. And this as well was one of those planks that was just, well, let's just say if it was at wood store, you would not pick it up. It doesn't especially look all that interesting, or it didn't look all that interesting, but what was revealed from underneath it is full of pretty tight curl and flame. So that is going on a build for sure in the future. From the same plank. I'm just going to show you all these. There's only 2 more to go. And yeah, I wanted to cut these pretty oversized so that there would be room to kind of choose where you want to place the guitar. So there's plenty of room to put it here or there. And we only need about, a blank size would be about 500 mil in length, about 150 across. So these are well within those bounds. And then the last one, which already the plain side of it looks pretty sick. And then the book match side. Now this also has really interesting grain to it, and I look forward to using it. The only shame about all these and the book matching was the fact that the planer at the workshop was not in the best, nick. So it did tear out on some of these, especially because there's flame and curl. It ripped off some parts, like for instance here. You see that? Not fun. So I will still need to, of course, joint all the tops later on. And that will be another process entirely, where I need to make sure that they're absolutely perpendicular to each other, and then hand plane probably that joint there. But the fact that now I don't need to buy Flamed Birch tops for a bit, it's a nice feeling. It's a very nice feeling. Oh, this is pretty cool. So my dad also said, is like, hey, would you have any use for this block of Karelian birch? Or, well, this block of Karelian birch. It's not really big enough for any guitar part, really, until I realized that you can actually fit 2 backplates on there, or 2 of my backplates on there. So I'm gonna process this down, and I should be able to get a minimum of 6 backplates from this, but I think I can squeeze out 8 Karelian birch backplates. And these will be the ones that will go on guitars that have the Karelian birch veneer on them. So really looking forward to that, because they are gonna look pretty damn cool, and they're going to kind of keep with the theme of matching the top with matching the backplate with the top, I should say. Now, let us get into the meat, so to speak, of this stream. I need to put in one more eye, or cut out one more eye, and then we're gonna do some other stuff. But first, I need to bring the camera in a little bit closer. So hold on tight. Now, I should say that yesterday I tried to troubleshoot a lot of what went wrong with the music stream previously. I'm not sure whether I have actually solved those issues. I still need to do a test stream in order to make sure, but hopefully I've managed to get something done where things will work the way they should. Because I really want to do that. I really want to be making music streams, because I do have a couple of ideas up my sleeves. Rightio. So, the main idea here today is to finish the skull, candy skull inlay. Now, what that entails is making something, or making it look something akin to that. And we're this far. So I need to make the other eye, inlay that, and then we're gonna cut out the nose, both the eye sockets. Might cut out those parts, but we'll see. Then cutting out the entire thing. We can't inlay it because, of course, we don't have the actual thing that we need to inlay. Now, there's a few parts where, for instance, there's these little bits like this, and those little vines and the leaves, those are gonna come after this has been inlaid to the fretboard and engraved. And I'm gonna use some brass shavings to actually make the leaves. But there's still plenty of work to do, so let's get down to it. First and foremost, we need very good light here. I have already made this inlay once, but the eyes ended up being two different sizes, so now I need to do it again. Fairly annoying. I was so close to being done, but the difference between the two eyes were a bit too big to really ignore. So I had to take a little bit of a step back, reassess the situation, and come back with a fresh mindset. Because I was really frustrated at things not really working out the way they should have. Okay, I can actually bring my monitor in a lot closer to see if there's anybody in the chat. There. But yeah, this is gonna be really tiresome for my fingers really quick, because there's a lot of detail to get right. Ooh. I should say as well that something else that has really improved my state of mind and energy levels has been the fact that I have now implemented the new schedule on YouTube, where I'll lift this up so I can see. Oh my God! Lock gave out. All right, yeah. So, one of the things that I'm really happy with is the new schedule, because it allows me to breathe in between videos and actually make things instead of constantly having to worry about hitting deadlines with videos and stuff. So instead of having a stream clip on Tuesdays and Fridays and streaming on Wednesday and then having an edited video on Sunday, which was a lot of work, I now opted to, and I've talked about this already. I talked about this in the previous stream too, but I opted to have the Wednesday stream, have the VOD or VOD go live on YouTube on Friday of Wednesday's stream, and then Sunday have the edited video. It gives me so much more time to actually prepare and make things the way I want to make them, to the quality that I want to make them. Because for a little while there, basically my entire week just revolved around getting videos done on time, and I didn't get to focus on any of the actual work that I have, which is not ideal. Oh yeah, a really cool thing as well. Yeah, you'll see it sometime. But yeah, I got a new tattoo last Thursday, and it's a tree to suit my woodworking habits. Anyway, let's get back to it. Okay. Whew, scared me. Almost done with the cutting, so I can just make do with the broken blade. Hopefully. Famous last words. Turns out not. Come on. Maybe, just maybe, I can make this work. Okay, that broke apart in probably the best way possible. It didn't shear the design. It went right along the line that I was supposed to cut anyway, and the piece that flew off of it went straight in the trash. That went well. Now, I would have been pretty pissed off if I would have had to do this the third time around. All right, now, using a triangular file to make the pedals. And yeah, guess I can actually first I'm just going to adjust the size. And then I'm going to start cutting out the pedals. So basically what I'm using as a guide is a piece of tape that I applied onto this flower and then cut into shape on top of it and applied onto a new piece of pearl. That way I could ensure that I'm getting pretty much as close to the right size as possible. All right, now let's get the starting pedal going and move on from there. Right, okay. I think I can remove this. Before I go any further, I'm gonna check that it is already roughly at the same size as this one. Perfect, yes, yes it is. It is indeed. So first I'm having to create all the divots in between all the petals and then move on to shaping them, which is always a little bit difficult with something this size, but we'll get through it. The thing is, of course, on the original, these are pretty much identical, but by hand is extremely hard to do something symmetrical. But I'm going with the whole mentality of these are flowers around the eyes. They're meant to be an organic shape, so it should be fine as long as the shapes are the right size. All right, so petals cut. Now to kind of shape them, which in this case just means removing any sharp edges, rounding them over. There. Essentially what we're looking at. Right? So now I need to inlay that in, get it flush, and then we'll cut out the middles and the nose, or nose hole. It's getting there. Ooh, got coffee grounds in my mouth. All right, so that's the orientation I want it in. And that's the placement I want. There. Want to reinforce those. And just start paring stuff away. I wonder if actually, I might need to film this, because I'm not sure if I've done that yet. So give me a sec. Let the camera up again. There. Ooh. So, on Sunday, we'll have the next installment of the Celeste build series. And by the looks of it, it's gonna be the second to last one. Or if you count the demo, third to last. And my plan is that this Sunday, we're gonna focus on creating the nut for it. So making a brass nut by hand. That's the stock I used for it. Then the following weekend, so the 20th, we're gonna have electronics final assembly. And finally, then the week after that, we should have the demo. Should have the demo. Another thing that I've been playing around with has been okay, I'm gonna take another memory card. Yeah, so another thing that I've been playing around with is my camera settings. Because it's been kind of hit and miss every now and then. That now, with the new settings, I should be just fine. Actually, tell you what, we're doing such close-up work, I'm gonna take another lens. Lens that I used to use a whole lot, nowadays not so much, because it has a very shallow depth of field. But I think for this purpose, it will be just fine. Let's have a look. Actually, it looks pretty cool. I'll take it up a bit. Yeah, I think that's all right. Yeah, there we go. Just paring away the material ever so slowly. Not rushing this. Essentially, very much using a cut-to-cut method here. There we go. Find my inlay chisel, which is here. Now, just so that I don't lose that much fidelity out of the inlay, I can actually inset it quite deep. Okay, just seeing what parts need to be taken down. It's going in on all the corners, which is ideal, which just means that I need to make the hole deeper. And yes, I realize that the external dimensions of the cavity are very round in comparison to the actual shape, but once this has been inlaid into the fretboard, it's still going to go through an engraving process where I am going to apply ebony dust to create the outlines of a lot of things, plus of course, the petals themselves and the details. So I'm not all too worried about that right now. But this is definitely one of those processes where I miss having access to a Proxon. I should get one for myself. Such a handy little tool with its base and everything. A fellow builder in Finland, Sami Risku, has created a sort of base for his Dremel that is essentially the same thing that the Proxon has, but I don't have the sort of it's easy enough to, well, I guess easy enough to do. He sent me pictures on how to do it, but I am somewhat reluctant to do that on my Ryobi Dremel. I don't know why. It's just, I know why. I guess laziness in that sense. It's one of those things where back in even school for carpentry and stuff like that, I was really reluctant on making jigs. I didn't find it interesting at all to make any form of jig for any process. Meanwhile, my classmates are all about making jigs for everything, which is smart if you're gonna repeat processes. Of course, making a jig is exactly the right way to do that. So that's something I recognize in myself that I need to remedy, I should say. All right, let's have a look. How does this sit in there? Yeah, great. Let's get that locked in place. Goggles, just so I don't get glue in my eyes. Because that would be literally a pain. All right, then just there, not too bad. Not too bad. That's sat in there pretty well. All right, so next up is going to be, once the glue sets, it's going to be time for cutting out the nose and the eyes. That's what we're looking at currently. Let's get some light on that so you see it a bit better. Oh, is that too much light? There. Funny looking thing, isn't it? Yeah. So in engraving the eyes, I really do need to make sure that I get it right. Because they're not just round holes, they're sort of trapezoidal. So to get the orientation of them correct in relation to each other, that is the difficult part. Because I have since removed my tracing lines, which is, well, it's far from ideal. I might draw those on for reference. So. Well, that's not even remotely. Okay, let's do this properly. So. Centered at 3 mil. Along the nose. Also doesn't look right. Oh, sorry, I meant 4. They're roughly not the same shape. So we're going to cut out the one that I like better first, and then cut the other one accordingly. Yeah, that's what we're going to do. That is what we're going to do. I need to keep a watchful eye on my audio output in the mixer, because I've run into scenarios where the audio has cut out at a crucial point. So I'm going to avoid that by actually keeping an eye on things now. All right. Gonna make one quick social post on stories. Still live on Twitch, making some Inlay stuff. Come and hang out. We're not that far off from getting this skull looking the way it should. So, join in on the chat. Join in on the chat. Join in the chat. I'm not sure which way is the right way. Twitch.tv/IP_guitars. Come and hang out. Change that. And then add a live now thing. Live on Twitch. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, sorry. Got distracted by looking at Instagram stories. Let's actually crack on and get things going the way they should. So I'm gonna cut pretty close to the line I've drawn, but I'm gonna adjust it by filing it. So same way that we've been doing each part of this inlay so far. There. One eye hole. Did not take a long time. Long time to cut, I should say. Right. Let's adjust that until it is the way we want it to be. Use a rounded one as well. Always good to check up against the light, natural light as well, to see how things are going. Right. Right. So, a little bit of a bump there. Getting rid of that. Right. I think that's pretty good for the time being. Oh, hey, either. Welcome. Yes, inlay work indeed. Finishing up this, well, not finishing up, but getting this candy skull inlay a little bit closer to home. Since you've previously seen it, I have inlaid some mother of pearl parts. So I have both the flowers around the eyes, both flowers up top. I did the centers with some brass tubing, and oh, excuse me. So now we need to cut holes here and here and flatten everything out, get it ready for inlaying into the fretboard, which is currently at the workshop. So, making progress for sure. And yeah, let's get that other one going. The glue should be dry now. I do have to switch audio sources now, so just give me a sec. Oh, jeez. So I have to switch audio sources because I need to film this part. So let me just check. Film this part on this camera here, and that needs or requires audio. It also means that I need to turn down the music in the room. I still have it on the stream, but yeah. All right. So, rightio. Okay. So now, got a little bit further, as you've seen there, inlaid both of the flowers in the eyes and cut out the first eye. Now we need to trace the next one and adjust them up until they look the same, right around the same, hopefully. I wonder if I could actually do this. But yeah, either, how are you doing? What is up? And also, when it comes down to pronouncing your name, do you prefer I pronounce it, or do you prefer to have it pronounced ether, so like a E, or aether, so you pronounce the A, or something in between? Ah, crap! It needs to be the other way around. Darn, forgot the fact that it's of course flipped, but I can do it from the other side. Haha! Doing pretty good actually. Sadly, I haven't worked on my build at all. Yeah, I do. It's fine, dude. Work on builds when you have the motivation and the time to work on them. If you try and rush work in somewhere, you're probably not gonna do as good a job as you would when you can really put the time and effort into it. That is exactly why I took a week off last week, because I didn't want to rush any of the work that was coming up. Took a little bit of time off. Now I'm fully energized, remotivated to work on stuff. Pronounce it A, more like eighth. It's okay. I'm not that picky. Yeah, I realize that you might not have been that picky, but I wanted to make sure that I pronounce it the way that you want to pronounce it, because it's something that I've been thinking about. Every single time you pop up and I say hi, and then I start thinking about, which way do I say it? Should I say it this way or should I say it that way? But now I know. I'm probably still going to say it wrong the next time you pop up. For sure. Because my memory is something else. Non-existent is a good word to pronounce. Good word to pronounce. Yay. That is not what I meant. Non-existent is a good word to use to describe my memory. And apparently my speaking skills. Right. So. There we are. Great. I need to adjust that into the right position. I'd say that's roughly there. Yeah, I'd say it's roughly there. Right. Yeah, I have my own motivation back now, though, after I managed to get COVID. Oh, darn! Hope you're doing better now. Or is it still ongoing, or have you made it through, pushed through? Meanwhile, I have just, well, what day is it? It's Wednesday. So on Monday, I booked my times to go get my vaccinations. Because on Monday, finally my age group got to get or reserve vaccination times in Helsinki, which is freaking awesome. Soon I will have 5G everywhere I go. Hope they give me the 5G. I've been, my internet here in this apartment is kind of bad at times, so it would really help out with streaming and whatnot to be carrying around my own 5G network. I mean, that joke's still funny, right? Right? Because people still believe that shit. Realize the fact that it's like I have a bad habit of being the type of person where I normally swear quite a bit, but I try to avoid doing that in videos because I want my stuff to be fairly family friendly if somebody wants to kind of like build a guitar with their kid or something. So I try to refrain from swearing too much. If I do swear, I bleep it out. But now I don't have a bleep button, and I kind of went. Yeah. No F-bombs though, so I guess that's pretty good. I think there's no F-bombs. Doing better, just the long-term effects that I struggle with. Lack of energy, basically zero concentration, tired really quickly as well. Last 2 weeks I was really had zero concentration like at all. Okay, yeah. That sounds about right. But hopefully your energy picks up soon, and when that does, your concentration will surely come back too. The thing that helped me was, like, if you saw the previous stream where I was just sitting at the cabin, I was just taking time off, relaxing, just completely resetting myself. But you're getting a free metal zone, and you're all like, yes, finally I can get my own metal zone. The fact that I don't have one is kind of absurd, but that's awesome. So now I don't need to worry about that either. I can take it straight to the band practice place and play around with it. I'm assuming, now, here's the thing. I'm assuming that when I do get the metal zone right in my arm from the vaccination, that they are only going to put it in there with everything at max. It has to have max gain, or then it's not going to work properly. And I'm just not going to deal with that. If I don't have max gain, I'm going to go back there and I'm going to complain. That reminds me, Aether, have you seen Pete Cottrell's video where he tries to see what it will sound like if you plug in 100 Metal Zone, I think they were all at full gain, what they would sound like in unison. It is so good. It's so funny. I mean, it didn't get to 100, but it's just ridiculously good. In general, I love Pete's videos. They're great. It's one of my favorite YouTubers, really. Ola is another. Extreme pedalboard challenge. Possibly the Rob Scallon one, where he plugged in. He got the Guinness World Record for that, didn't he? Plugging in as many different effects into a guitar as possible. My English is whack. Have you seen Pete's attempt at making an 8-string? He's tried to make an 8-string? Is this a new video? No, I haven't seen it. I need to investigate. Hey there, Mervis Sinner. Welcome. Completely botched the name right there, but that's been what I've been doing. Ooh, Pete. Rob Scallon made an 8-string. Oh, okay. So is that like a continuation of him making the, what was it called? The Shark? The guitar that he just built with his friend when they had no idea what they were doing. I loved that video. That was, it hurt me on so many levels, but it was so funny to watch. I loved it. But yeah, Immersive, how you doing? Good to see you here. We're getting this, let me find it. Getting this inlay sorted. I'm never doing inlay in my builds, or binding, far too lazy. Binding isn't, oh, well, it depends. Do you mean binding around the body or binding around the fretboard? Binding around the fretboard, that's easy enough. Binding a body, if you have a good rebate cutter and a router table, it's pretty easy. If you have a carved top, well, I mean, you could already do the binding channel before you start carving the top, so technically that's not too bad either. Doing binding isn't that... Music Man routes the channel for the binding and literally pours it in as an epoxy. Yep, that's one way of doing it. That is something that I did with the Banshee 2.0, where I made the binding channel and I walled off everything, and then I poured epoxy with some glow-in-the-dark resin, with some glow-in-the-dark powder embedded into it. So that turned out pretty cool, actually. But binding in general, it's not that bad. I mean, you can do it with just masking tape and super glue. It's a bit fussy, but it's not the worst thing in the world. Especially if you're doing just one ply binding, you should be okay. If you're doing multiply, then yeah, it's a nightmare. If you're doing wooden binding, also a little bit of a pain because you need to steam everything and whatnot. But oddly enough, you could actually do wooden binding around a guitar body if you have the binding channel, and if you have, well, if there is a curling iron in your household, so wife, girlfriend, or you personally use one, maybe, you can use that to actually get the shapes. It's pretty much like the iron that you use to get acoustic sides, except it's just smaller. It drives the exact same purpose, so you could use it for binding if you're using wooden binding. I'm lucky because I actually really like the look of raw fretboard, and I'm not a huge fan of binding anyway, but it's going to be one of my things if I have to have a thing. It's always nice to have a thing. One thing that I do sometimes is that I might have the fretboard, and during processing it down where you cut off a chunk, I will still use the pieces that I trimmed off as the binding for that fretboard. So it's the exact same wood. It is the fretboard, but I'm using that as a binding on the fretboard, so it looks uniform, but at the same time I'm getting rid of fret ends, because that's something that I kind of don't like that much, or I should say getting rid of the tangs here, so you don't see that. Basically blind fret slots. Man, talking today is hard. But yeah, that's more or less why I do binding. It's just to get rid of the fret slots, or hide them, I should say. Yeah, I like that look, so you don't have to drop super glue to cover up the tang. Exactly. It's just, I find it a little bit easier. Of course, it does make things a bit tricky when you're actually fretting if you don't have fret tang nippers, or yeah, fret tang nippers, which I don't, but just going slowly but surely and making sure that you get the tangs off the ends, you should be just fine. I thought about using CNC just to cut fret slot, but that doesn't reach through the entire fretboard and doing the same thing. Oh yeah, I mean that's definitely what. Sorry, it took me a while to read that and process what you were saying. I thought you meant through the entire fretboard this way, and I was like, why would you do that? But yep, this way. Yep, I got you. I got it. Yep. But that's something that a lot of people do, and it works out pretty well. Person in CNC. Oh, nice. You actually found a CNC. Cool. I have a very, I don't know. I have a very odd relationship with CNCs. I like the idea, and I used to, one of my jobs used to be running a CNC, but I just like making things by hand. And honestly, routing a guitar body and doing all the processing and whatnot, for me personally, because one of my things, again, is not having too much waste material. So I can cut things a bit closer if I'm just going to route things by hand and saw things by hand. And also, to me personally, I find that I can work just about at the same sort of rate as a CNC could when routing out bodies and whatnot. If I just do a bunch of bodies at the same time, do a bunch of necks at the same time, I'm pretty sure I can just work to a sort of time rate that makes things reasonable. I also don't like the idea that if I have a CNC, that it's doing something, then something happens and the computer decides that, hey, it's going to go from this point to here now, and it destroys the thing. So that essentially ruins the entire instrument, and there's nothing I can do to recover from that except chuck it away, start over. If I'm screwing something up by routing by hand or cutting by hand, then that's on me, and that's my fault as a maker. It's not because a CNC or a machine decided to go a different direction than where it was meant to. Yeah, one of those things. It roughly around the same thing where for my phone when I'm listening to music or listening to music in general, I don't have wireless headphones because I don't like the idea of having wireless headphones, because for some reason I have the idea that it's gonna, because crappier phones that I've had have lost connection to something, and then they just blast it through the speakers. And because I might be sitting on public transport and then somebody just all of a sudden starts looking at me weird, I lift up my headphone and realize that my phone is blasting music through both my headphones and the phone, something like that. So I always have a wired headset. But that's just me. That's how I work. Maybe I'm just too, I don't know, stuck in my ways to get a CNC for myself. The problem with binding, it can make or break a guitar, aka make it look stunning or ruin it. The James Root White Jazzmaster looks stunning. I do agree with you. If done poorly, it can really, or if the binding doesn't suit the guitar, then it can look very off. But if it just pulls everything together or focuses the attention on a certain aspect of the guitar, then you have done the job very well and it will look phenomenal. But yeah, completely agree. And mostly you want consistency. Yeah, that is one of the main reasons to get a CNC. And actually back in school, when we were doing our final projects for school, my teacher was insisting on me doing everything with a CNC, but that just made me want to show him off, that just made me want to make things by hand even more so. So I did all the carving with spoke shaves and made all the shapes by hand, cut everything by hand. At max used a router table for some shaping for the bigger pieces, but I didn't feel like going to school for carpentry and woodworking to be a craftsman, that basically the end projects that I do for school will be me just chucking pieces of wood into a machine and then basically making a code, a picture, and the computer drawing it out, or the CNC drawing it out. I didn't find that too interesting or appealing to myself, so instead I made every single piece by hand and machined everything, made every process by hand. And to me it felt like a much more personal end product, and something that shows my skills as a craftsman more than me just doing something on a CNC. Whereas my teacher's point of view on this was, because the industry is currently at the point where you need to know CNC and make everything via CNC, because that's just how the industry works. You won't get a job when you get out of school if you don't know CNC stuff. I know CNC. I know how to use AlphaCam. I know how to do that, and I have done that. I just don't have a personal interest in making my personal stuff via CNC. Rant over. Sorry about that. It's just, I have absolutely nothing against CNCs. They have a purpose for doing certain things that really make things way more efficient than doing things by hand. But when it comes to me building guitars by myself to my spec, I would much rather just do it by hand. That's just me.
fretboard radius jig. Router is like €300. That's one use tool only. Router is multi-versatile, but a CNC can do much more than an investment side. For me, using a template is barely removed from using a CNC. Pretty much, yeah, exactly, my point. I use templates for everything, and why would I stick the thing in a computer when I can just do it by hand? It's not that different. IP, we have the same background basically, so I totally feel the same. Yeah, good that you kind of get where I'm coming from, because a lot of people will take that as me hating on CNCs, which is not the case at all. But we have our methods, and that's what is cool about it, for sure. My goal is to get instruments in as many hands as possible. Yeah, see, that's the difference where, well, that's not. I don't mean to say that I don't want my instruments in as many hands as possible. Of course I do. Of course, that's what every maker or luthier is trying to aim for. But to the extent of making more instruments, a CNC is worth it if you want that exact same consistency, so people can be like, hey, did you check out this guitar? Yes, I did. I have one at home. And you will instantly know that they feel roughly around the same way, and they sound roughly the same. Meanwhile, making things by hand, there's always going to be inconsistencies. As much as you try to keep everything exactly the same, there are still going to be things that make those instruments stand out from one another. Granted, CNC is going to do the bulk of the work, and you're still going to have to go and refine things by hand, resulting in... I'm talking in circles, aren't I? I hope you get where I'm coming from. Since my builds are all going to be niche, I kind of want to cater to the crowd that is my peeps, you know. Nobody builds guitars for them. Yes, that makes complete sense, and that's exactly the way that you should do. You should be making things for your niche market if you have your own thing that you're doing. Just imagine doing the inlays on red layer guitars. RNG stuff OD does. Yeah. I need to show you what I'm doing on my personal 7-string, because I am gonna hate myself once I start doing the inlay. Where is it? There. Essentially, I mean, I have another more drawn out version of this, but the fretboard is going to be TONEWOOD. It's going to be ebony from the first fret up, and then from the 24th down, or 22nd, I'm not sure how many frets I have. Anyway, from the other end, it's going to be Bubinga. And yeah, I'm doing this by hand. So this is actually the wall of the Eye Museum in Amsterdam, which is a film and photography museum. Went to Amsterdam, I saw the wall, and I immediately got inspired to do this inlay for my own personal guitar, and it is going to drive me insane because the pattern never really repeats, but it's all the same. There's 2 different shapes in there, and they're all geometric shapes. So I am going to drive myself crazy because doing geometric stuff is hard by hand, very hard. Whatever method of construction, I know the one thing I don't want to do. And not knocking on guys like Ola, but I don't want to license some factory in China to build my designs. I guess I understand why he doesn't do it himself. He's not a craftsman, but he's an entertainer. I want to build, right, not just sell. Yes, exactly, fully agree with you. I don't have any interest in having a factory make my guitars. I make my guitars because I have a passion for making guitars, and I want to make them. Meanwhile, on the other side of things, instead of myself having to do the business side, I really want to hire someone to do the business side of things, because I want to have someone edit my videos. I already have talked to my friend that once that comes down to it, I will hire him to edit my stuff. But it's mostly just because I want to use my time to make stuff, not have to worry about business, have to worry about editing videos. I want to stay in my workshop. I want to make the stuff that I make the videos, but not have to constantly stop working in order to get things edited on time. So yeah, completely get what you mean. Now I'm interested, what instruments and style do you make? I'm building accessibly baritone and extended scale basses. Yeah, 2740. Those, yep. That is a very good market and a niche market to have. Also with CNC, you can make it as crazy as you want. Some people 3D CNC, but you can also do it in 2D, all the final shaping by hand. It's personal touch. Yep, pretty much. Like I said, I have no qualms about using a CNC. If you know how to use a CNC properly, then you're set. Which is, I really, really love watching Omer and Jort, so OD and Red Layer, make their guitars on their CNC, because the drawings and how they machine things out of the CNC is just fascinating to watch, and they really do know their stuff very, very well. So if you do it well, why fix it if it's not broke? I think it would also be super great to be able to make kits too. That's what I would do, to be honest. Yeah, that's where the CNC would come in super handy. Have you seen Paul Daka? Yes, I have also seen Paul Daka. Yep. Great looking instruments. Great looking guitars. Yeah, definitely. Like, having a CNC to make kit guitars is the way. I still remember way back when Crimson started making kit like necks and bodies. We were making them by hand. So they were essentially custom instruments, but priced as kits and shaped as PRSs, LPs, and stuff like that. And yeah, there's actually, from my old blog back when I interned at Crimson, there's some of them in there. And while it was fun to do that, not exactly cost effective, and I can understand why they got the CNC to do that in the end. Because, yeah, that took out a lot of time and effort to do. Also, with limited space, the CNC makes sense as well because it saves you from buying more tools. Yep, definitely the case. And if you can make your drawings as accurate as possible to the end product that you're going for, or the end product that you're going for on the CNC, then even better. Take the time and effort to get your drawings correct and your machining looking the way it should, and then you're pretty much good to go from there. check that out. The eyes are cut. And now we need to cut out the nose. So in order to do that, we're going to drill a hole straight through his face. Let's cut a bigger hole so we have less to cut out. Here we gotta order some strings. Out of curiosity, immersive, while Aether is ordering strings, what strings do you use? I'm curious. Is there a certain brand that you like to use, or a certain set that you like to use, or is it just kind of what fits the build they're going for? Do you have experience with DR drop-down tuning strings? Yes, I do. The old guitarist, or the first guitarist in my band, used to use those. And yeah, they're not too bad. I did notice that between sets there were some cases where some of the strings were already kind of off. So if you had a bad set of strings, you might have one string in there that sounded dead. And that, of course, is a little bit of a pain. But that was rare, if you just happen to be unlucky. Oh, my camera is out of battery. That's why it stopped. Let's put in another battery in there. Yeah, okay. Nose has been cut. I'm going to order two 11 to 54 sets and Jim Root plectrums because the Jazzmaster is a tiny bit too much. Not a bad idea. 11 to 52, so, and talking about Jim Root and stuff, I'm assuming you're going to be dropping that down to like drop B and stuff like that. Or what tuning are you going to play in? Now comes the question, spend 230 on a rounder and an €80 jig, or save it and build a CNC for 1K-ish spread across multiple months. Really depends on what you want to do. Essentially, if you want to start building straight ahead, then then the router and jig and whatnot. But if you want to save up and work on drawings at the same time, while you're saving up for the CNC might be a good way to go. The only way that you're gonna actually be able to check whether your drawings and your tool paths actually work is then only testing things out once you have a CNC. So that's always a bit annoying. So it's just more, how urgently do you want to start building guitars? If you want to build guitars straight away, then the router. If you're fine taking your time and getting everything sorted before that and just refining designs and stuff like that, then CNC, I guess. I'm going to lurk for a bit, but I'm in a work webinar. Nice. All right, but thanks for lurking anyway, and while you're technically at work, I appreciate that. Yeah, drop C sharp standard, but drop B, drop A as well. I already have CAD drawings, and CAD lessons ends in 2022. Yep, so that's also something else that's gonna, yeah, okay, well, really ask yourself the question, what do you feel like you're gonna need most? When it boils down to it, you can do pretty much all the router stuff on a CNC. Whether you want to do that and take the time to do all your designs and whatnot is another thing. It just might be me being lazy and not wanting to spend too much time in front of a computer. Most of my day job is just answering emails and staring at a computer screen, so I'm not really interested in doing that. I used to do freelance video editing back in the day, and that was just sitting in front of the computer. I've done enough of that and not interested really, which is also a part of why I don't really want to do CNC stuff that much, or at all, or somewhat. Yeah, personal preference. In the end, like I said, it just boils down to when do you want to start building stuff. If you're fine taking your time and really want that CNC, it'll pay itself back pretty soon, as long as your tool paths and everything else work out fine for you. Of course, trial and error is always there, but trial and error is in everything that you do, as a luthier especially. I know, I have very helpful insight. It's do what you do. No, but stuff like this is just a matter of how you work, how you do your work as a maker. Everybody has their own preference toward things. And I know that nowadays, especially, not having a CNC is a bit more rare in the field than having one, especially when you get to a certain skill set. Skill set is probably the wrong word. I would always like to remind people, anybody watching, that I am not a native English speaker. So words that I choose every now and then might not make sense. There. Alright, sweet. That's what that looks like. I realized I didn't point the camera down at any point. But, yeah, let's sand that flush now. Yeah, exactly. The problem I have is that I need to thickness bodies as well, or turn rough lumber to squared lumber, but I can have a jointer or planer, etc. Yeah. Well, I mean, you can always use the good old-fashioned... I can't get to it right now. Wait, can I? There's the tried and true method of just using a hand plane, which will take forever, but will get you the same results. I completely understand what you mean. If you decide to go the router way, you can always build yourself a sled. A sort of sled, so you can have a... what is it called? A surfacing bit. So you can just have that and then use that to thickness your body. So there's workarounds to everything, basically. It depends on what's easiest for you. If you're just going to be using, yeah, depends on which way you want to go. I'm just going to keep on repeating myself over and over again, apparently. Sorry. Yes, but not forever. Yeah, sled is nice, but takes up as much space. Yeah, that's kind of the reason I paused, was because I realized exactly that essentially it just ends up taking exactly the same amount of space as your CNC bed would. So I decided to shut up. Now, we're pretty close to finishing up this stream, and what I'm thinking is that I might try out the setup for music recording, streaming stuff, just to see if it would actually function and work. If it does function and work, then I have ideas for next week's stream. So, if it works out, that should be awesome. If it doesn't, then I need to still finagle all the details. We'll see. If you look at how much handwork OD Vidalka etc. still do, it's quite a lot of handwork. It is. For sure. I mean, the same thing with when I worked at Crimson, where we had the CNCs make pretty much everything, right? Make all the necks, bodies, fretboards, stuff like that. There was so much handwork still involved. Of course, you need to sand everything, and you need to finesse carves and whatnot. There was a lot to do still, even from the CNC. Of course, by now. I'm pretty sure they've refined a lot of things, but I think that no matter what, no matter where, what workshop you look at, there's still quite a lot of CNC, quite a lot of handwork needing to be done even after CNC work, because fingertips and the human eye are a ridiculously exact tool when it comes down to it. Oh, I need to cut brass. I need to put in the blade that I just had. Yeah. Like for instance, look at Kiesel. Kiesel guitars, they make so much stuff on their CNCs, and their CNCs are ridiculous. Or Framus, or Warwick Framus. They do so much CNC work, but even they have to do an insane amount of handwork still afterwards. So. I don't like Kiesel, to be honest. Yeah. I'm not saying I do either. I'm just using them as an example of how much handwork is still applied afterwards. But I mean, same thing. Fender. PRS. A lot. Gibson? Some? Yeah, okay. Well, I'm just going to say Fender and PRS as well. A lot of CNC work, of course, but the amount of stuff still done by hand, even at such huge companies, yeah. There's a lot to be said. Let's put it that way. And I believe that it does show in the quality of the instruments afterwards. If you put in the care to really do the handmade portion carefully enough, you end up with a product that is so much better than something that has been just slapped together, put in a machine, and sprayed on top with huge amounts of lacquer and paint. Kiesel fan base is also, yeah, definitely ESP LTD instead, for damn sure. So I do get what you mean. Which, you know, I gotta be honest, I do understand why, but I was slightly disappointed when Paolo from Trivium said that he's working now with Kiesel for bases instead of Warwick. Not saying that he should have remained at Warwick. Of course, if he can play whatever he wants to play, and if it makes sense for him, then all the better. And to be fair, the basses do sound really, really good. And I do like some Kiesel artists. So it's not just about that. It's just, I guess, the fan base really does kill quite a bit of it. Hey, look, it's a skull. Don't get me started on the ESP Japan custom shop, Takayoshi Omura 7-string signature. Yeah. ESP custom shop is just something so cool. Now, see, I have the hard time where the guitarists in my band, they play ESPs, and of course I want to make, you know, signature guitars for them from IP. Of course I do. But trying to, you know, in a way compete with ESP stuff to make them play my stuff instead, it's gonna be a little bit of a hassle. I'll get there. I'll get them coerced into my corner of guitars, but I understand why they like ESPs. Those guitars are phenomenal, the ones that they have as well. Spectre makes awesome basses. Oh yeah, for sure. I love the Spectre basses. They're really cool. That's another thing. I want to design a couple of basses with my bassist as well. But he uses Works currently. Trying to get him. Yeah. I mean, he's got a lot of instruments. So build him a bass as well. Would be nice. Would be cool. Spec one out for him. We'll see. Down the line. Next year? Maybe. I love the fact that he's like, I'm making plans for other people to play my instruments, but yeah, well, you know, it is what it is. Alright, so now, gonna fine tune the edges of this. Make sure I get them as close, well actually I need to get them to the right dimensions in order for me to actually inlay this into the fretboard. The Dingwall community is really nice as well. Hey, do you like those pickups you're getting endorsed by? First off, Dingwall. I love me some Dingwall basses. I really do. Looks-wise and sound-wise as well. Do I like the pickups that I'm getting endorsed by? I wouldn't be endorsing the pickups if I didn't like them, but to be very honest with you, I have not heard them yet because I have nothing to put them in yet. But so far, judging by the build quality, also the customer service, and somewhat knowing what Godla is like from just watching What's on the Bench videos when he used to work at Crimson as well, I am fairly certain that I've made a good choice in partnering up with him. I can't wait to hear what they sound like honestly. And if the build quality is anything to go by, and everything that I've seen, he seems like a very savvy person where it comes to pickup winding. So I have good faith that we made a good decision on partnering up for stuff. Let's put it that way. Noise egg. Oh yes, the noise egg. The combustion is so cool. Hold on, gotta go close the door real quick. But yeah, I am gonna finish this up and then end the stream here, basically. Well, not here, but end it once I finish this up. Oof, that noise is horrible. Okay, a little bit more. All right, and I need to finesse those cheekbones. Alright, so here we go. That is, I'm first showing it at the camera, or the big camera here. That's, whoa, God! That is what we've ended up with after all this. And now, the next part is inlaying this into the rep board. Let's have a look at that. Now, through the power of editing, that video is going to continue with me installing this into the fretboard, but the fretboard is at the workshop, so that will be for another time. Here, have a look at what we finished up. I'm pretty happy with that, and there's still so much detail work to go, but this is a very good base to work up from, and should be fun. Awesome, good to know. I love supporting EU brands. Yeah. When I do demo the pickups, they're going to be fairly extensive demos, because I'm also going to try and do my own test of TONEWOOD stuff. I know, I use the horrible term TONEWOOD, but yeah, the whole idea is that when I order all the components, or all the hardware for the production models, I'm just going to order one set. Of course, I need to order 2 sets of tuners, because, you know, there's 3 aside and 6 in line. But nonetheless, just one set of hardware, electronics, and everything else. And then during the day where we install everything, I'm gonna stream the entire thing. Probably it's gonna be a very long stream, very long day, where I have every guitar and I put the exact same pickups, exact same hardware, exact same strings on all of them and see what the difference in sound is, because they are same shapes, different woods, and they all have the same neck. They all, well, not the same neck, but they all have walnut necks and ebony fretboards, which are all cut from the same planks. Both of the ash bodies are from the same piece of ash. Both the alder bodies are from the same alder, but then there's a Bubinga top, a birch resin top, and 2 Karelian birch veneer tops. And we're going to see what the difference is in between sounds within these instruments. And then of course I have 2 sets of pickups. The MKH is first going to be demoed, of course, with the ratchet stuff, and then the mountain pickups, which they're going to be sent out with. So yeah, extensive demos for sure. And I also need to record a song with the MKH data list, and that is something that I hope to be able to do on a stream. I want to record the song. Well, if I can get music streaming working, I want to do a songwriting stream where I write the song that I'm going to demo the guitar with. So hopefully I can get that going next week. TONEWOOD only matters with acoustics. Spectre Sound Studio did an amazing video where he bet a custom build guitar on it. Yep, seen that video. And yeah, I mean, I try not to get into this topic too much because it's one of those things. There's a big reason why such huge arguments are made about this online. And while even Spectre Sound Studio, with the video and the tests and everything else, it's extremely hard to test something like this. And I've read thesis papers studying the resonance and vibration and stuff like that when it comes to TONEWOOD. And yes, on acoustics you definitely hear it. With electrics, it's very, very hard to hear the differences between things because of all the electronics and everything else, but there are differences for sure. But that being said, an alder body instrument, let's say that it's fully alder body and everything else is like all the woods that it has, exactly the same. Let's say it has a bolt-on neck. That already makes it sound a certain way. Let's not say it's a bolt-on neck because that is a completely different topic already. 2 alder bodies with the same woods and whatnot still might not sound the same. It's kind of the same thing where it's like if you have 2 SM58s, 2 microphones. They might be from the same factory, might be the exact same microphone, they still sound a little different. It's something that's extremely hard to kind of figure out. But nonetheless, there are, like I've talked about before, tap sounding, that already has a certain tone to it, a different neck. I have none right now, but doing that with a different neck, I had slight variations in tone. Rosewood does have a ring to it. Like if you have a good block of rosewood and you hit it with like a mallet or something or tap it, it does have a certain tonal quality to it that another wood doesn't. Same thing applies to so many different woods, and bad part is testing it in a way that doesn't get hatred of the internet is nigh on impossible. So I need to be very careful with how I phrase what I say in the video when I do my own tests. It's not a sort of definite, this is a TONEWOOD test to see if TONEWOOD is real. It's just seeing how different the guitars will sound between one another with just having the same components. I guess that's a better way of putting it, if that made sense. But hey, I'm gonna end this stream here. Thank you very much for watching. And if I do pop up as online and streaming in a little bit, that is me testing out how music streaming works. It's gonna take me a little while to set things up, but because I need to switch computers and stuff like that. But nonetheless, I will give it a shot. I might come online again to stream still later on today. If I do, hope to see you there, and I will look forward to any feedback on how things look, sound, and feel. Feel doesn't make sense. You know what I mean. Let's say about half an hour. If I'm not online, I'm probably not going to do it. Half an hour from now? Yeah. Half an hour. Either see you there or see you next week. Alright, bye. Thanks so much for watching.